All right. Hey, everyone. Mark here, Mark P. Markets. Hey, thanks for joining me for another Bitcoin video session. Let's get started. I'm sorry I'm running a little bit behind, so I appreciate your patience. Let's get right into this right away. All right. So hold on. I'll explain to you how this whole thing works in a second. This is for educational purposes only. For investment advice, please consult a licensed investment advisor. All right. So if you're new to the stream, welcome. Here's how it works. First thing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through the economic calendar very quickly. Second, we're going to talk a little bit about this Bitcoin chart because I wrote my analysis on TradingView yesterday. And man, let me tell you, this is a very tricky environment. So there's a couple of comments I want to make about that hopefully can give you some good guidance along the way. And then third, we're going to look for trades in this environment using the Trade Scanner Pro to see if we can make anything of this. All right, there's a lot of movement, and when there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of opportunity. So we'll check that out. All right, so again, welcome to the stream. I got my regulars here. Savi, good to see you. All right, hey, Slow, good to see you. Alex from Romania, I like this. Love to see you guys. All right, I mean, man, it's been a slow environment as far as I mean, the markets aren't slow, but as far as people's interest, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe people just aren't interested in watching me, or maybe it's the time that I stream. Whatever it is, I don't know. But anyway, all right. So let's talk about this real quick. So first thing, I want to talk about the economic calendar. A couple of things worth mentioning this week. So we have this is the first week of February. Tomorrow we have there was a services PMI or a manufacturing PMI number for the U.S. Not a big number. I wouldn't worry a whole lot about that. On Wednesday, no, I'm sorry, that number's on Wednesday. All right, double check the economic calendar because I do this just from memory. On Thursday, there is the British pound. They have their rate announcement, I believe. So that could be important if you trade Forex pairs. And on Friday, of course, we have non-farm payrolls. So that usually comes out the first Friday of the month, and that is a big market moving event. So you want to be prepared going into that. If you're going into that with positions, maybe you want to take something off, reduce risk, just keep it in mind, because if there are any surprises there, it can cause a dramatic reaction across the board, right? It doesn't matter what you're in, Bitcoin, a Forex pair, a stock, NFP can have an effect on that. All right, so just be aware. Okay, so yeah, good question there. What kind of trap? All right, so let's jump right into the chart because I don't want to waste a lot of time here because I want to talk about trades, right? So let's talk about this chart here for a moment. On my TradingView article, I wrote about this situation right here. When I was writing the article, we were fooling around in this area right here. And I was talking about a bounce to 100K. But I also talked about working with sizing. Oh, let me make the charts bigger. Hold on. Sorry, guys. You don't need to see my big head. Okay. So there we go. So I was talking about this area right here, and this is going to answer your question. I was talking about this area right here where I was anticipating a bounce, and the market was trying to bounce at the time. But again, this tariff news has been causing a lot of chaos in the markets. I mean, with the S&P, right, with gold, with oil, with everything. And there's a lot of drama. So in these situations, the first thing that I like to do is avoid the news. Because imagine, first of all, let's just go back. Let's rewind a bit and go back two weeks, like 2 weeks ago when we were fooling around up here, right, in the 105s. Remember the meme coins and all that other nonsense? And Bitcoin made the new all-time high and everyone was excited? Boy, that was a bad area to be long. And I wrote about that in my TradingView articles in that time period. I said 105 area, bad place for longs. So if you're fooled by news, if you're one of these people that can't be without news, you run into these problems. And you're like, oh, what's the big deal? But the big deal is if you got long at 105, you had to sit through this mess. Going back to almost 90K. What's the low here? What was yesterday's low? Or the current candle? The low was 91. So basically 91,200. We can round that number. 91,200. That's almost 90K. And it went there from 105. So if you were long, all optimistic, because again, you love news, this is the problems you run into. Now, let's talk about yesterday's move, right? This move where all of this news, once again, if you follow news and all this drama and Bitcoin is testing 93, 92, whatever, you may be short. You may be thinking this was a short. With all the nonsense and all the frauds and all the talking heads that what do you call it? They echo that news even further. They make it more dramatic than it is, and everyone overreacts. You get short in this area. That's typically what happens. This is why I don't pay any attention to news. I don't care what it is. People think I'm nuts, but you know what? I don't get caught short here, and I don't get caught long up here. That's the benefit. Now, as far as what kind of trap was this blue rectangle that I have on my chart here highlights this support zone, which is no secret. For months, I mean, we can go back all the way back to December. This entire area has been clearly a location where there's buying activity. Look, pin bar. I remember talking to Savi during the stream about this pin bar, right? Look at all these tails. Another pin bar over here, pin bar. So that is important information that can help us. That tells us that somewhere in these low 90s, there's buying activity somewhere. Now, so how do you play that is the next question. This is tricky because first, this is where you really have to understand your time frame and what you're looking to get out of that time frame. Like, for example, if you're working on 1 minute charts or 5 minute charts and you go into this area, it's going to be very tricky. There may be a lot of false starts. You can't tell that from looking at a daily chart. There may be a lot of long signals that fail, right, as this thing works its way to that low. But you know in the bigger picture that there's a higher probability that this thing reverses here. But that doesn't guarantee that it will reverse. So again, you have to understand what you're looking to do. That's why when you're working with swing trades, in my opinion, it's a little easier because you know your location, you know the probability of your location. Now it's a matter of, well, how are you going to enter a trade? If you're looking for longs, because if anything, you should be considering longs in this low zone, in this buying zone. You should not be considering shorts unless you're working minute to minute and you're looking for a small bite. That's another story. And yes, that's highly risky and there's going to be a lot of noise. And if you don't take your small bite, you may get caught at the bottom, short. And this thing is now 10,000 points higher in a matter of hours, right? So here's the way I like to go about doing this. And I wrote about this in my article briefly. For one, when you're in the zone, you're in your buying zone, you have to consider smaller size because the thing is, all of this price action is news driven. This is all news. This is all that tariff drama. And it was very possible that this thing could have broken. If there was some other news that came out that was just as bad or whatever, this thing could have seen 85K. It was possible. So there's no way to know in advance if the market's going to get there. People that do these forecasts are fooling themselves and fooling you. There's no way to know if Bitcoin was going to really break and go lower or not. It's a matter of the market either doing it or not doing it. So all we can do is measure the risk and be willing to take the risk or not. Now, there are ways to mitigate that risk. You don't have to take a big risk. You don't have to go nuts here and take a big position. You can take a small position and you can use a 4-hour chart for confirmations because there's no confirmation here on the daily. There's nothing here except this candle, which shows you this huge pin bar, and the candle is still open. And that's a 10,000 point range. So there's no confirmation there. If you're waiting for confirmation on your daily chart, you're still waiting. There's nothing there. And you missed this entire move, right? And there was opportunity on the smaller time frame. Now, the Trade Scanner Pro could be very helpful in a situation like this because it can give you solid confirmation and it can also give you a solid exit point for your time frame, so you know where to put that stop. Because again, you can mitigate risk by sizing smaller and putting your stop somewhere in this area, 89. So yeah, you're risking a couple of thousand points. Do you want to do that on one Bitcoin? Probably not. But if you're doing that on an eighth of a Bitcoin, then it's much more tolerable. And then if it starts to work, you can add to that, right? So let me just show you an example. If you go to a 4-hour chart, for example, right, this was what happened on a 4-hour chart. So if you knew you were in the area, you're like, okay, I'm in the location. We have an inside bar on the 4-hour chart. Now, yes, you have to pay attention to this. You have to watch this. If you don't want to watch it, checking every couple of hours, because in this case, you'd have to. If you don't want to watch it, then you just have to place limit orders under the market and hope for the best and put your stop below that. Or if you're using MetaTrader, you just set your stop at a much lower price and hope it doesn't go there. And that's it. You're playing a game of risk, right? Does it go there? If it doesn't go there, you have a great price and maybe you participate in this. Maybe you put a limit order in advance as well, right? Maybe you're risking 2,000 points and you put a limit order for a profit objective at 3,000 points or 4,000 points. It would have easily reached that. Again, there's no way to know if it's going to reach it or how quickly. It's just you're playing a wild game here. And that's the whole focus should be your risk, not the reward, especially in this environment. So smaller size and knowing your levels, right? So now, speaking of knowing your levels, what do we do now? Can we do anything here? This is a pretty bad area for longs and shorts because we're back in the middle of the range. Let's go back to the daily chart. We're back in the middle of the range. Look at the range. This is the range. This is the bottom of the range. This is the top of the range up here. We're in the middle of the range. So price action tends to be very random in the middle of the range. So either now you switch back to small time frames and try to take your small bites, or if you don't have the patience for that, I mean, it's a hard thing to do. You just leave this thing alone until it gets back to 105, if it can get back to 105. Maybe it goes further, right? Maybe it makes it back up to the 108s. But one thing I can tell you is there is a lot of selling activity in this area. And that's very clear from the chart. I mean, look, I'm just going to highlight all this activity up there. If price makes it into there, look how many touches. It goes into the area and rejects. This is a daily chart, which means it spent some amount of time in there during the day and then rejected relatively quickly relative to this time frame. So if you know that you're in an area where selling is greater based on this historical information, number one, you should not be going long up here in this area with high expectations because you're fighting the probability. Now, at some point, it should break, right? And since the general trend is bullish, at some point, it's likely to break out higher. But that's a tough game to play. I don't like that game because look how many breakout attempts there were. If you were the genius that bought it at 109 and you used leverage, most likely you got margined out by now, right? That's why I don't like breakouts. Look at the location. Look what's happening at the short-term movement. This is a range, and we've been in a range since December. So know your extreme points of that range because that's where opportunities exist. You can argue that there are opportunities inside of this candle, but those are going to be much harder to deal with. And you're going to be dealing with a lot more noise. So when markets get extreme like this, and we're seeing 10,000 point movements in one candle, which is extreme, then you want to pay attention to your extreme levels and only wait for those. It's a lot less stressful if you do it like that. Okay, does that make sense? From Minnesota, hey Nugs, how are you? Good to see you. All right. I met a guy from there recently. Nice guy. So anyway, right. So any questions about this? Because this is how you deal with this. So number one, just to kind of recap before we get into the trades, leave your opinions at the door. Don't get caught up in the news because the news will drive you crazy. I mean, every few minutes, some kind of drama is coming out and people are overreacting. So you want to be aware of what levels are next where we can see some type of significant reaction. We know our supports. That's pretty easy. We know our resistances. That's pretty easy. Now it's a matter of waiting until price reaches one or the other on this time frame if you're looking for swing trades. Does that make sense? Now, when you're working with smaller time frames, let's take a look at a 30-minute chart real quick, right? When you're working on smaller time frames, This is going to be trickier because you still need to be aware of your daily levels, those broader levels that we talked about. But there are levels that are going to appear on these smaller time frames, like a 30-minute, right, intraday. Like, for example, you can look at old levels like back here. You have an old support over here, right? And you have an old resistance over here, for example. Look what happens when we retest. Well, this level broke over here. There was a very minor bounce over here, which broke. That level was retested again and went lower, right? It retested over here, blew right through it, right? So those levels are not going to be as reliable, but they can be if you get a reaction that makes sense at that level. And that's where you could use a tool like the Trade Scanner Pro, for example, to get an actual confirmation and an actual definition of your risk and your profit objective in those type of situations. But I will tell you, it's a lot harder to play that game. I mean, look at this area right here. This area probably caught a lot of people short. All right. You had the break of the support. You had a retest, shorts, and then news. Clearly, this is news. There was no way to see this coming until after the fact. You know, we could draw a fib there. We could say, oh, yeah, this and that. I mean, yeah, there was a minor support there based on this resistance. You could argue that. You could have projected this level in advance. Based on that, you could have. That was realistic. But there was no way to know it was going to do this. Right? So you don't know what's coming next. You could have projected the potential long, but you don't know how long that's going to be good for. There's no way to know. Now, maybe you happen to be in it, and the news comes out, and great, you hold on to it for a little longer. But there's no way there's no way you're knowing that this is going to 102, especially working on a 30-minute chart. All right, so that's enough of that. Let me know if you have any questions. So, excuse me, I'm sorry. Let's talk about these smaller time frames, and let's talk about the Trade Scanner Pro. So if you'd like to try out a 14-day free trial, there's a link in the description, what I'm about to show you now. There's also a tutorial link that I have on there. So if you want to know how the Trade Scanner Pro works, you can click on that link. It's in the description, so I don't have to explain that here. Everyone here pretty much knows, they know how it works, so I don't have to keep repeating that. All right, so what I'm going to do is the whole purpose of this demonstration, right, because this is going to be the trade part of the stream, and I try to do this as early as possible so we can find trade ideas, is I want to demonstrate how to find a trade idea and then use the Trade Scanner Pro to confirm the idea and then manage the trade. Because the Trade Scanner Pro is a management tool and confirmation tool. It's not a forecasting tool. You have to do some forecasting. And that part is not that hard. And that's why I'm showing you how to do it here. So first thing I want to do is I want to decide what time frame I'm going to work on. It's best to work on larger time frames with the Trade Scanner Pro, especially if you're a beginner, like 15-minute, 30-minute. But for purposes of this demonstration, in order to show you how this works, I usually demonstrate it on a 1-minute or a 30-second or a 15-second because I want to show you how trade opportunities actually appear and then how they can be managed, right? But I don't recommend these micro time frames if you're new. They're very hard to trade. There's a lot of noise and they're very random. So you have to be aware of that. Also, another important factor here is time of day. I try to do these as early as I can because I want to take advantage of the market while it's still open. Bitcoin is highly correlated to the stock market. So when the stock market closes, volume tends to dry up in Bitcoin as well, and movements can be more erratic. So something to be aware of. Now, with all that being said, my purposes here is I'm going in as a day trader. I know this in advance, just like you need to know what you're looking to do in advance before you even look at the chart. So you're saying to yourself, I want to be a day trader or I want to be a swing trader. And that's going to determine what time frames you look at. So as a day trader, I'm going to start out here with an hourly chart. Now I'm going to change this chart here to a MEXC, Bitcoin perp. These are perpetual futures, by the way. This is not the spot market. You have to understand that also. It's a very important point because taking trades, short-term trades on the spot market is not practical, usually because of the costs involved. So that's why they have perpetual futures contracts, which are available on most exchanges. So, hey, Sean, how are you? So first thing I do is I'm switching to the hourly chart on this time frame because I want to get a sense of context. This is my larger time frame. I'm not planning to take trades on this time frame. I'm looking to get information so that I can come up with a trade idea. The trades I'm looking to take are going to happen on this time frame, the smaller time frame. So I'm going to switch this to a 1 minute. Oh, look, there's a trade there right now. But again, I don't know anything about this trade. So you don't take trades just for the sake of taking trades. These signals could appear randomly, right? So I'm going to turn this off for now, for the moment, all right? Because I don't know, again, I don't know what we're doing here yet. I don't know where we're coming from. I need context first. So let's look at the bigger picture and let's get some context. So I'm going to expand this chart. This is my hourly chart. And what I'm looking for are basically trend and levels. Now, trend is tricky. You have to basically identify the trend on the time frame you're working with. And it can be confusing at times because we can argue here that there's a bearish trend and it's changed, or maybe it's still in play because you have all of this lower high, lower low action to the low over here, right? But that is previous. And the only thing I'm really going to get from that are levels. So the momentum or the most recent trend is going to be this movement right here, right? Which is clearly bullish. We have a higher low, we have a higher high, we don't even have a pullback here, and it's just vertical, right? And it's broken all of these little minor resistance levels along the way, and we're basically fooling around up here, right? So let's just highlight some levels if we could see them. So my momentum is bullish, right? And that should be the side that I should lean toward using the Trade Scanner Pro. So that question is answered. What side should I be working on? Long side. Okay. Now let's point out some levels here. You can use your horizontal line tool, right? I have a level over here. Those are some supports. I'm looking for some resistance, right? We got some over here. We can argue that's a resistance. We can argue that we have some up here somewhere, right? That's a resistance. Those are my levels. It's that simple. I don't need to get all caught up with all this little action in here. All right. I'm interested really in inflection points that came previously. Inflection points are larger movements, right? Reversals where there's like a decent sized movement. And we can see that if I measure this to this, what is that? That's 5,400 points, right? Compared to like one of these little movements here. That's like that's what is that? 1,000 points, those little movements. So clearly you can see 5,400 points is way bigger, right? So that's how you make those judgments. How much reaction or what kind of move came off the level, okay? If there's only a couple 100 points, it doesn't really mean anything. But these are much more meaningful, right? When you get these bigger movements. So that's how I define my levels. All right, great. So that's done, right? I know my general momentum, it's bullish, and I have some levels. My next resistance basically is up here. Now, can this area be a problem? Possibly. There's a couple of touches there, right? So I do want to note that. I want to be aware of that going into this because basically we may be at a resistance level right now. Okay, so I want to be aware of that. Now, there can be times when this is tricky and like, man, you could draw lines anywhere and everywhere. Yes, you can. That's one of the random problems, right, with the market. So that's why these are reference points, and I can't count on them. I can't bet on them exactly. I can't just put a position on just because we're at a horizontal line. It's just a reference point. So it helps me understand what can happen here. And it helps me kind of gauge my probabilities or my expectations better. That's it, right? Now, so we're possibly at a resistance. My next support is way over here. That's kind of far from where we are right now, right? But my general momentum is bullish, which means I'm going to attempt to work on the long side, but I have to realize that I am in a tricky area and I'm going long at potentially the top of the move, right? Should I go short here? Well, we'll have to look at the smaller time frame and see what it looks like, all right? Now, this may be an area for day trade shorts. When it comes to day trades or very small time frame trades, it's very common to work on both sides. And being prepared to work on both sides. That's why I don't recommend it for beginners because it can be very confusing. Right now, so let's look at our smaller time frame. We said we're going to work on the long side. So I'm going to turn the Trade Scanner Pro on. This is my 1 minute chart, right? This is my 1 minute chart. This blue line is the blue line that I drew on my 60-minute chart. It looks like we had a long signal that was called over here by the Trade Scanner Pro, and it rejected this price up in here, never made it to the profit objective. By the way, these are my reference points, right? That would be my stop loss on a 1 minute, and this is my profit objective on a 1 minute time frame. Whenever I change my time frame, whatever trade comes up on the Trade Scanner Pro, it gives me those reference points, which is very helpful knowing where to get in and get out of these things and how to define my risk. Now, so do I still agree with the long side? Well, I mean, yeah, but look at this situation. I don't exactly like what's going on here. Should I take this right now? No, I'm not going to take this. For one, we shouldn't be pulled back into this blue line. The blue line is the entry price. We really shouldn't be here if this thing was going to be strong and continue higher. But the thing is, this may just be a pullback for this broader momentum, right? The stop loss happens to be at the swing low. That's where the Trade Scanner Pro placed it, right around that swing low. So I'm going to use that swing low as a point of reference as well. If we break below that swing low, then I will start looking for shorts at that point. Right now, I will still lean on the long side until that support is broken. Remember, in a trend, right, we can call this short-term momentum a short-term trend. I like to call it momentum because it can change so quickly. When you have a bullish situation like this, supports generally hold. So we can expect more from supports. It doesn't guarantee anything, but there's a greater probability that a support will hold and a resistance will break. And in a bearish situation, vice versa, right? So right now we're pulling back. Supports should generally hold. This is my closest minor support, happens to be the stop loss on this thing. So, all right, no problem. I'm not in the trade yet. I'm watching this. Now, this trade signal may become relevant again if price can find support like soon, and then work its way back above this blue line. That can be another entry point. That's how I like to use that. So the original entry was here, but I was not involved in it at that point, right? So I essentially missed it. When you're working on larger time frames, you're going to see this situation a lot, where there's a trade in play and you're not in it, and you're like, oh, okay, let me watch, right? It may become a valid trade again if it could make it back above that line, but looks like it's not doing that. All right, no problem. I stand aside. Now, one thing I have to do with the Trade Scanner Pro, when you get this thing, if you notice on the settings panel, you got to turn all of these things on, okay, except for counter trend. So the trailing stop was probably touched. If I take the trailing stop off, see the trade comes back. So the trailing stop was touched. There was a trailing stop in there, and it cut this trade out. So this trade basically, this is the historical trade right here. The trade was stopped out based on this thing. So it says a loss of, what is that, 85 points? It's not bad. 85 points. The way this thing is moving, that's like a win. Okay, so you'll notice here, I'm getting these green columns now, right? It's because I turned on the heads up. Heads up tells me that a signal is likely to appear in the next 3 to 5 candles. That's it. That prepares me for a trade. So I know something is coming. And look, right? Heads up. I'm getting the yellow candle, which is what the column highlights, that yellow candle. So it prepares me. Oh, okay. In the next 3 to 5 minutes, another signal is likely to appear. So now I can decide, do I want to get involved in this thing? I'll give it a try because we still held up. We held up above this support. All right. I'm using some judgment here, and I'm willing to take that trade. Okay. So okay, hold on a second. I got to turn on my my trade, this thing. Okay. So I can take paper trades. So this is, I'm going to demonstrate this with a paper trade account. Okay. So I'm going to turn on over here the order ladder. You can actually place trades, right? You could set it up so that you can take trades from buttons up here on the chart. I don't like to do the buttons. I like the order ladder. That's just a personal preference. It doesn't really matter, right? So I'm waiting for the signal. Sometimes signals don't appear if this thing moves too quickly. But I'm going to try to be patient and wait for a signal here. Sometimes also I have to switch to a smaller time frame, right? Which means, going to a 30-second chart or going to a 15-second chart, because signals take too long on the 1 minute. We'll sit here for like 45 minutes before another signal appears. Let's check the 30-second chart. This is what you have to do. See, look, there's a signal there on the 30-second chart. And now it's kind of above the blue line where I should have been in from. All right, I may take this, put it on 2 contracts. Let's see how this candle closes here. This is 30 seconds now. I don't recommend these charts for beginners because they're very erratic. They can be very wild, especially the way Bitcoin's moving now. All right, I'm taking this because it looks like we're going to close green. Well, looks like they tricked me a bit. All right, whatever. I'm still in. Okay, so I'm not in at the ideal price. I missed it. The ideal price was here, but we're moving, so I'm going to give that a try. I took greater risk, basically. So my risk is defined by this red line, which we can go there very easily. And my profit objective is up here. At this point, this trade is basically 1-to-1 reward risk because of the price that I paid for it. All right. But hey, I'm trying to demonstrate an example here. If the momentum is intact, this thing really should not go back to the stop. But anything can happen. So I have to be prepared. All right. Now, so what the benefit to this is, again, I know my exit, my entry. I know that I had some sort of momentum confirmation, because the Trade Scanner Pro, what it really is looking for, it's looking for pullbacks. Do we not have a pullback from here to here? We do, right? It's a pullback. And we determined that our trend was bullish, our momentum is bullish. So it's a pullback and a bullish momentum trend. Looking for long. That's what it looks for. So it confirms the pullback for you. Okay, profit objective. Let me sell 1. Okay, sold 1. Now let's see if I can ride this. Now here is really where the value of this thing comes in. Right? I got to the profit objective. I respect it. Take something off the table. That's the whole point of having this profit objective. Take something off the table. That's why I had 2 contracts. I'm still long 1. Now with this second one, I'm going to wait for the trailing stop. Now what happens is, over time, as the trade moves in your favor, you'll see this yellow line appear, this orange line, which is just appearing now. It just popped, it went lower because it's based on the closing candle. But that's my trailing stop. The trailing stop is what allows me to ride a winner longer. And it also allows me to not get fooled by all the noise that appears along the way. Now, with that being said, there are still instances where I get fooled by the noise, because the noise is so dramatic. I'm like, all right, I'm getting out. I'm taking this thing, right? And then I tap it out, and then it goes my way. That's going to happen sometimes, right? Or it touches the trailing stop. I get out, and it turns right around and goes my way. We see that happen. So it's not perfect. But the idea is, over time or over numerous trades, it will keep you in winning trades longer. So instead of capturing 1.5 to 1, which is what this profit objective is, by the way, it's 1.5 to 1 my risk, I may be able to capture 2 to 1 or 3 to 1. And I'm not forecasting this. I don't have to analyze this. This is up to the random nature of the market. If Bitcoin right now wants to run whatever beyond this high over here, and that's what it wants to do, great. I'm going to give it that chance. And I think there's a better chance that it does that because the momentum is generally bullish. What price is this, by the way, up here? 101.8. 101.8. Okay. And we were higher, weren't we? Weren't we at 102? Or was that the highest point? That may be the highest point. So if the market's generally strong, it should make a higher high. Now, I know, though, we determined earlier that this is a resistance area. That's what this blue line is that I drew from earlier. If my momentum is truly bullish, resistance is more likely to break. So I'm going to try and give it that chance. It may not work, okay? But that's the whole point of focusing on my risk. I'm going to give it the chance. My trailing stop, as you can see, has reduced my risk on this trade. So this trade right now is still in the green, but I still have risk, right? And my risk right now is this much. It's this much, which is 81 points is my risk. My initial risk when I first entered the position, remember I entered it from a bad price. I entered it around here somewhere, was 308 points. So if I had taken this trade on time, which is what if I had caught this at the blue line, my risk at that time would have been 190 points. All right, that's on a 30-second chart, right? So as you can see below, my risk is closing. My risk is getting tighter, which means if this thing pulls back out of nowhere, which it can, and it goes back to break even, I'm breaking even basically. See how my trailing stop gets closer to the blue line? Actually, break even for me will be up here because that's when I bought it. But if I had bought it at the blue line, break even would be there, basically, right now. The next candle close should pop this line up to that blue line, and that'll be break even. So my risk went from 190 points to 0 while the trade is transpiring, while the trade is, moving along here. So I'm not making any decisions. I'm just letting this thing decide for me. So at this point, I'm going to use the trailing stop as my stop out. I'm going to lose money on that second lot in that scenario because I bought that right here, right? But I'm going to give it a chance. We're rejecting this resistance again. So if I'm not, how you manage this is also going to depend on your risk tolerance and what you're willing to give back. Like, I know this is a resistance. We talked about this. So I can get out here and take my money and say, well, I'm justified taking that money because we have a resistance here and I want to take the money. You can do that. If if we had no resistance here and this was just some random level, then maybe you could be like, all right, I'll give it a chance. But, you can keep that in mind that you have to make these judgment calls sometimes. We know that there's a resistance here and it's rejecting. All right. Now, I'm back to my entry price. This is where I bought it. But my trailing stop is over here. I'm going to have to take that loss if we go there. And I'll do it. Very, very important point about the Trade Scanner Pro is you must respect these levels, the stop loss and the trailing stop. The stop loss especially, you must respect it because here, I'm going to get tapped out over here. And once I get tapped out, the trade will vanish from the chart, right? Those lines will vanish and then we'll wait for another one. Sometimes I don't get tapped out, but there it goes. All right, goodbye. So I took a loss on that one. And that should have been break even if I had gotten in at the right price. But remember, I bought it at a bad price. So I took a profit on one and I took a loss on the other one. All right, but I gave it a chance. Like I said, I knew we were going into a resistance. I could have been more judgmental there. And I could have been like, well, it's a resistance. I'm getting out. I could have done that, and that could have been a profit, a smaller profit also, or whatever. Right? I had that option available to me. But you're never going to do this perfectly. There's no perfect answer to this. Right? If you're looking for that kind of precision, you're not going to find it in this game. It's a tough game, especially on these smaller time frames. So I'm showing you this on this time frame to give you an idea, but this is really not your best choice as far as using this tool. And as I see people sign up and they'll cancel after 30 minutes, they're probably going on these small time frames expecting to make millions of dollars, and then they get stopped out a bunch of times. Oh, this thing sucks, and they cancel it. And that's okay. I'd rather not have those people as customers anyway. This is a tough game, and it requires a certain type of person. So there's a lot of value in this tool, and beginners don't recognize that value. That's why I'm demonstrating it here and trying to show you what this thing can do for you. And you have to imagine this on larger time frames. And you may ask, then why don't you show it on larger time frames? Because we'll be here for hours. Now, one thing I can do is I can record, pre-record a trade like all those frauds do on YouTube, and say, oh, look at this trade I took. Hey, I made 20,000 points, and I bought it yesterday, and I got out today, and look at this great trade. Right, but then the losing trade, I don't show you that one. I don't upload that one. I only show you the winning trade, right? That's why I don't like to do that. So I'd rather show you on a live stream because I can't fake a live stream. It's funny how that technique works, though. Like, I can upload a video and people will believe it. So anyway, all right, so I'm waiting for another trade here. Am I changing to bearish yet? Not yet. Not yet. We're back to this support level. It's a minor support. We may break it. Hey, Ka, how can you How can you do small trades on DEX without paying high fees that eat up your profit? Okay, so it depends on the decentralized exchange that you use. I found one that was decent, right? I'm not going to share them here because I'm not fully done with them yet, figuring out if I like them. But their costs seem to be within reason. Like they seem to be within like CME costs, costs of like the futures exchange. They seem to be very similar for the amount of Bitcoin I'm messing around, like the Bitcoin perp futures. That's the whole point of decentralized exchange and using the perp futures, is the costs should be lower. If they're not, like I have messed around with some where the costs are prohibitive, then don't use that exchange. It's that simple. They're no good. They're no good for day traders or these type of small time frame trades. If their costs are too high. Like I came across one where they wouldn't even let me out of a trade for 10 points. I had to get out 10 points worse than the current price because of network. They said the network was busy. That's not going to work, especially for these type of trades. Okay, here's a trade signal. Now, all right, it vanished. Okay, so it's going to pop on and off. I'm not going to rush into this. Let's see how this candle plays out. Again, this is a 30-second chart. So these are going to be very erratic. That's why I say you don't just jump into a signal just because it appears. We know we're looking for longs. I'm interested in longs, but I want to see some better price action. This may stop out. So again, I'm not in it. No problem. Wait. When you're dealing with these time frames, it's okay to wait. Now, maybe we go back above that blue line and I'll buy 2 of them, right? If we can do that. And it still may fail even after that. But I'm just, there we go. Look at that. All right, I bought 2. Hopefully it doesn't fail. But it still might. So this is understand that based on the type of movement that we're seeing here on Bitcoin, this is a pretty tight stop. And I have to respect it. So what is that? 200 points? I have to respect that. Considering the way this thing is moving 10,000 points in a day, 200 points is nothing. Also, if I was using a decentralized exchange, I would be working with a small account, like $1,000 or something like that, right? Which means I would not be putting on 2 full Bitcoins. That would be too big for such an account. Even if they gave me, 500 to 1 leverage, the decentralized exchange that I was looking at, they only offered 20 to 1 leverage, by the way. That was the max leverage. So I would not be working with 2 full Bitcoins. I would be working with fractions of Bitcoin, like maybe a quarter or 2/8 of a Bitcoin or 2/16 of a Bitcoin. And I'm saying it like that because each 16th would be a position, right? 1/16, and then you buy another 16th. And I have two units now, 2 lots. And I'd be aiming to make, $10, $15, $20, $30, maybe $50 on a $1,000 account, which is a nice percentage of the account. That's how you have to look at that when you're dealing with such a small account. If you think, I got a $1,000 account and I'm going to make $200 in a trade, that's 20% in a trade. Like it can happen with these type of movements, but the risk you're taking is ridiculous. And if you don't acknowledge that, you're just going to wipe out the account. I just tell you in advance, save you the money. All right. You don't want to wipe out the account. So let's see if this thing can reach that first profit objective. It's trying. All right. It's a good start. Let's see if it can keep it going. There's going to be a lot of noise on these time frames. Also, this is why I respect these profit objectives. If I had not respected that one before, I would have given back on both of those lots. But instead, at least I was able to take some green, right, at the profit objective. That's the whole idea. It gives you a place to get out and take something off the table at an attractive reward risk. All right. So, what do you want to mention? What decentralized exchange you're looking at, or that you've been working with? Because again, they're not all equal. Some of them are ridiculous. Some of them are a little more reasonable. I've come across a few ridiculous ones, and I'm working with one that might be reasonable. I just don't like to mention them because, for one, I'm not an affiliate, and I don't want, I want to make sure that they meet all the criteria. You have to understand, these decentralized exchanges, they can be tricky at times. And you're taking a risk just by putting money on the exchange because they can take it. That can happen. There's no safety with that game. That's why I would hesitate to put a lot of money at one of these exchanges, like, $20,000, $30,000. I would hesitate to do that because that money can evaporate for no reason. So, all right, this trade isn't doing that great, but let's see. Again, it's up to the market. It's not up to me. If we go to the stop, I have to bang it out. That's all I can do. So I'm preparing to bang out. I have to respect the stop. After such a move that Bitcoin has had, again, it's very possible that this thing can give back 3,000-4,000 points in a matter of an hour. It can do it. So it's not a matter of me forecasting if it will do it. I just have to be open to the idea that it can. I'm adjusting to the market and to the risk every minute to minute here. That's what I'm doing. I'm not analyzing anything. I've determined my support and resistance levels. I've determined the general momentum, and now I'm trying to work on that side. If we make a change here, meaning we blow this support, we just blow right through it, then I should probably reconsider the side that I'm working on. So you have to have some sort of, judgment call. You have to have some sort of limit where if the market does this, I change to this. If the market does that, I change to that. So you're always adjusting to the market. You're not coming up with your own ideas or your own opinions or your own nonsense, which is completely irrelevant to the market. Like I was talking earlier about the news. Everyone's all caught up with this news. And the news gives you opinions. And then because you know the news, you automatically think that you know something better than the market. Meanwhile, this news has been processed. This is old news to the market. You just heard this news maybe a minute or two or 5 minutes ago. So you think, oh, I'm on top of the news. No, you're not. The algos are on top of the news. You're not. But by the time you hear it, the algos have acted. So they're working on nanosecond levels, right? That's what you're competing with. So I don't pay any attention to that stuff. The chart can give you some clues, and that's all we can get because there's a lot of hidden information here that we have no access to. I can't see a true order book. I've been experimenting with some tools, some order flow tools and stuff like that to see if there's any way to gain some type of informational advantage, and there's none. I mean, it's just, you think you see this, you think you see that, and it's complete nonsense. It doesn't mean anything. It changes like in an instant. So it doesn't mean anything. It's just a lot of noise and a lot of numbers and a lot of stuff floating around. And you're like, oh, I see the buyer. Oh, I see the guy that's selling. It's fake. It's not that it's fake. It changes quickly. So, that's why I think it's better to just kind of zoom out and simplify, recognize levels on larger time frames, and then see how the market reacts around those levels. Like here, look, we're messing around this support. It's a minor support. I know it's minor. We should not be testing it like this over and over again, right? I know we shouldn't be doing that, but that's why I have a stop loss defined, and we either touch that stop loss or we don't. So if we touch it, I bang out. If we don't touch it, I stay in. That's it. Those are my only outcomes right now. If we can hold, perhaps we test the profit objective. If I wasn't using the Trade Scanner Pro, most likely I would have banged this out by now. Because, lower high, red candles, I'd be reacting to what I see. And it's not a good idea to do that. This is why it's so hard to work on smaller time frames, because you're going to see a lot of stuff, and a lot of it's just noise. Where on larger time frames, it takes a lot longer to do things, and a lot longer to change, and a lot longer to prove things. So that's why larger time frames are easier to trade. The problem is the risk is greater. So you can't take the same size. Like in an instance like this, I have two lots on it, 2 coins. I'm gonna have to bang this out. 2 coins on a. Bang it out. on a 30-second time frame. If this was a hourly time frame or something like that, I wouldn't be able to do two coins, because if I'm wrong, I'm going to lose $5,000, right? And that's not the kind of risk I'm looking to take with these type of trades. So you really need to be in tune with that part of the whole process, because if you're not, you're just going to lose tons of money, especially in this environment. So, okay, so look, so far we've seen 3 long trades. Okay, another one may be developing here. You say, well, the support's broken. It might be broken, but we're on such a small time frame that this may just be noise. It's rejecting pretty quickly. It's trying to get back above that line. All right. So this is a fake out as far as I'm concerned so far. So I'm still looking for longs. Can we judge that this is a bearish trend? We have some possible bearish momentum, lower high, but that does not reverse this broader trend that we've determined earlier, right? That does not reverse all of this. As I zoom out, if you notice, this really, what this looks like is, it looks like a consolidation, doesn't it? We have like a common low, we have a common high. A consolidation is typically a momentum continuation pattern. So at some point, if Bitcoin finds support and holds, we're more likely to test these highs and break higher if this pattern holds. So I keep that in mind. Right? I'm not taking trades now at this moment based on that. I'm waiting for the Trade Scanner Pro to confirm another trade. So it confirmed these 2 trades, and both of them were not winning trades. This one, we had the profit objective on one and had to blow out the other one. This one was a complete stop out. Maybe we get another one here. But as you can see, I'm still trying to work on the long side. Notice too that my trend on the Trade Scanner Pro has changed to bearish. This is going to be very important for very small time frames, because this trend is going to change a lot. In order for me to get a trade here now on the long side, I have to switch to counter trend. That's why I have counter trend in here. I'm not going to explain all the details. Oh, look, and there happens to be a trade. Okay, on that fake out. Look, on the fake out. So I'm going to let this fool around a bit here. I'm not going to jump into this right away. Look what happened. This green candle generated the trade. We rejected it a bit, and now we're just fooling around between the entry and the stop. All right, no problem. I'm not in anything. I'm just watching. But there is a trade idea here, which can at least give me an idea that something is trying to happen here. So all this action that you're seeing here is going to be particular to very small time frames. It's not going to be as hard on larger time frames. Notice I'm in counter trend mode. Notice it generated this pullback. It generated a short signal, interestingly enough. Now, why would I take counter trend trades around this area? Well, it was a resistance that we determined earlier. And that's where you would consider, those are the levels where you'd really consider counter trend, is at support or resistance levels, especially major levels or relevant levels to your time frame. So it makes sense that we are at a support and it's trying to reverse. It's trying. But I'm going to be patient with it. I'm not going to just jump right in. This may go right to the stop. No problem. I'm not in. And maybe it goes to the stop, right? Taps out. No problem. And then we can get another signal. And maybe the second one will go. Sometimes you'll get a couple of signals before one goes, before one gets somewhere. That's part of the way this thing works. Now, I am working on a version where the signals are going to be more filtered to avoid those double or triple signals. Like, if we get like another one here and like a third one, I don't want these signals in here if they're just noise, right? And that's going to be very particular to smaller time frames, that type of stuff, because that's where that problem exists the most. See, so we stopped out of that. Again, I'm not in it, no problem. But we're not breaking. We're not breaking hard. If this thing was weak, this thing should dump, right? Okay, I'm going to take this one. Hopefully this one holds. All right. Now, something that's weak and that breaks should really move quickly. We're not it should do one of these, something more dramatic, not a couple of little candles and then signal again. And like we just talked about, when I zoom out, it looks like a consolidation. So this is typical price action inside of a consolidation. And we're fooling around near the supportive area of the consolidation. So I'm betting on that. If I'm wrong again and this thing taps me out, then I'll give it a break, because there's no need to keep fighting it if it can't get its act together. Now, again, the stock market is closed. I mentioned it's been closed for about a little over 10 minutes, and that's going to have an effect on Bitcoin. In fact, I'm willing to bet that this is the stock market close over here. Let's see. What time was this? Oh, no, that's not it. Let's see. Okay, this is the stock market close right here. Okay, so no particular, this was the close right over here. So going into the close, we sold off. All right, whatever. You'll notice there is a relationship between like this and the NASDAQ, maybe because of certain stocks that make chips. I don't know. You don't have to be that detailed. All we're looking for really is momentum and changes around levels and risk. That's it. So let's see if this thing gives anything. What I would like to see, what would be a positive sign, is if we can get a push above that level right there. It's a very minor level. It doesn't mean anything in the bigger picture, but for this trade, it would be meaningful for this time frame, especially if we can start pushing back up to here. We would be breaking these little lower highs, which means the structure is maybe returning back to the bullish momentum which we saw earlier. All right, so if I zoom out again, this is what's happening. Notice all these red trades. These are historical trades, right? All these red, that's counter trend mode. When I'm in counter trend mode, all this time while it was along, it was calling all of these shorts, right? So it's a good learning point why you don't use counter trend when there's a clear movement going one way. You use counter trend when you reach a level. This blue line up here was a level that could have been anticipated. So that's where you would switch to counter trend at that point. And look, not all of them worked. They had to deliver 2 of these that got probably stopped out. This one may have worked, right? This one failed. This one may have worked. This one probably worked a bit. But as you can see, it's messy. That's what happens when you're working with a 30-second chart, right? There's just no follow through here. This was a nice little attempt, and it's just not following through. But the idea is not to make any judgments. Let it go to the stop or let it go somewhere else. Those are the 2 choices. If it goes to the stop again, I'm not going to keep messing with it, because there's just no need. You have to. There has to come a point where you would call it quits and be like, all right, I gave it a couple of tries. The market's not cooperating. Don't fight it. And I'm not going to switch to short just yet. I'm not going to do that because, for one, I'd be shorting around a support. Like if I turn this thing around and start looking for shorts at this support level, I'm asking for trouble. So if I'm going to look for shorts, we really got to clear the area and then maybe look for shorts after that. But it's got to clear the area, meaning it needs to have a significant break lower. And then I'm looking for pullbacks, right? Because we're coming off that resistance. That's the only time I would switch. Otherwise, the only other place to look for shorts would be back up here, the resistance, if I was going to do that. So you don't want to be so quick to change. And when you're working with larger time frames, you shouldn't have that problem. You shouldn't be so quick to change on a 30-minute or on a 15-minute, because things don't change that quickly. That makes sense? So any questions, guys? Any questions about this? So while we're waiting for this thing to do something, you can check the Trade Scanner Pro out. There's a link in the description. If you go to that link, I'll just show you real quick. It takes you to this web page right here. Explains what the Trade Scanner Pro is, how it works, and you can sign up for your 14-day free trial. All right, you just press this button over here. It takes you to the sign-up form, right? And then you just put your TradingView username. Make sure you put your username in here correctly, because if you don't put it in there correctly, you won't get your invite. The invite takes about 30 minutes, 30 minutes to 1 hour to receive. You'll get the notification on TradingView, and then you'll be able to put it on your chart. And remember, you have to turn on all those. When you get it, all these boxes are going to be unchecked. You got to check them, except for counter trend. So I have videos on my YouTube channel that explain more about how counter trend works and all that stuff. If you're going to try it out in the beginning, don't use counter trend. Just work with the trend following, because you're better off that way, especially on larger time frames. Counter trend is more advanced. And that's why I put it in there for more advanced traders. You don't need to be in a hurry for that. You can work. There's plenty of opportunity working on the side of the trend and waiting for trades that develop on the side of the trend. So like here, for example, instead of me fighting this support, the other thing I can do, because again, notice this trend is bearish, right? On this 30-second time frame. The other thing I can do if I want to be more conservative is I can simply wait for this thing to turn bullish and then look for trades. That would be the safer thing for me to do, and it would probably cost me a lot less money because I wouldn't have to keep buying into this that keeps failing, right? The trend would reverse, and then it would start giving me long signals on the side of the trend. That would be the more conservative thing to do. But again, I'm trying to demonstrate examples here so that you can see how the script works. So I'm being more aggressive. So please keep that in mind. This can be very confusing if you have no experience and you're expecting, the tool to do all that work for you. That can be problematic, and I understand that. So we are working on ways to make this a little more intuitive and easier so that you don't have to know all these things, but we're not there yet. Steen has been very busy. He's trying to help me with the next version of the script, but it's taking some time. I mean, he's been working on it for a couple of months now, and hopefully we'll have something soon. Okay, so this is nice. Maybe some news just came out. Who knows? But this is why, again, you let the script make the decisions for you. I could have banged this out a few times on this price action. Right? I'm not reacting to the price action. I'm just letting it either go to the stop or do something else, go to the profit objective. Notice my trend just turned bullish. So I'm in early. Great. I could have waited for this, but I'm in because I went with the counter trend. So let's see if this thing can hold itself up. Let's see if we could reach the profit objective. If we can, I blow out of one. And then I try to let it run. I try to let the other one run. The idea would be to see if we could run back up here and test that high. I don't know if we will. But since the general momentum is bullish and we're inside of this consolidation, there is a better chance that this thing will do that, or at least attempt to do that. And that's what I want to try to hold for. So I know this in advance, and I'm trying to go with that expectation. So you see how I'm shaping my expectations. But first, I want to respect this profit objective. Notice I'm getting a warning going the other way. Notice that? That's because I'm in counter trend mode, and it's looking counter to this, right? Because we're back to bullish. You're going to have this problem on small time frames. So I have to turn counter trend mode off, which makes the trade go away, right? So you have to recognize that. Again, you're going to note that this problem is going to happen to you mostly on small time frames, like 30-second, 15-second. You're not going to deal with that much on larger time frames. So that's why, again, I encourage people to work with larger time frames. So I'm just going to have to ignore this. I'm not going to get a counter signal because this trade is open. So it's not going to throw another signal in there to confuse me even more. It's not going to do that. It's just giving me the heads up. I could turn up. I could turn off the heads up. That'll also make it less confusing, right? Just heads up. I could turn that off, and now I just see the trade, right? Without all that stuff going on. So again, you have to be a little proactive in that sense. I would like all that to be automatic, but I don't even know how we would code something like that. All right, so my trailing stop has now appeared. Let's see if this thing is just not moving the way I'd like. Usually when you get bullish momentum, when this thing is like on its way, usually you get big candles, right? You usually get like something like that. People are in a hurry to get into this. Tells me people are not in a hurry. Like you get stuff like this, these big expansion candles, I don't see that here. We started out with it over here, but then it's just like, they're like, nah, we're not that interested. But it changes. So let's see. 30 seconds, a lot change in 30 seconds. Lots of changes very quickly. So let's see if this thing can get its act together. But I was hoping we'd get to that profit objective quickly. Usually in very strong momentum, especially on such a small time frame, you get there pretty quickly. Let's see how it goes, right? So again, I'm not making any judgments. Now, one situation that we may get here, which would be a nice example if the market offers that, is we may touch the entry price. I'm going to erase this blue line, that support line. We drew that from earlier because I don't want you to be confused. But if we retest the entry line, sometimes that'll give you a second entry. Like I explained earlier before, sometimes you'll come upon a trade that's been in play for a while, and you may have another opportunity to get involved in it. You'll see that often, like I said, on 5-minute, 15-minute, 30-minute time frames. So let's see if we touch this and we hold it and we bounce off of it, maybe I'll add a third contract. Maybe. We'll see. We also may not bounce off that line. We may blow through it and go right to the trailing stop, in which case I'll have to blow it out. So let's see. Any questions so far? Do you guys like the way this thing works? Do you guys wish it would work better? Or, you know, I love feedback. You know, I know it's not the perfect tool, but I find that the tool really helps to simplify the decision-making process, that's the whole purpose of it. I know everyone wants something that does the forecasting and tells us the future, but nothing like that exists. I mean, have you seen all the nonsense on YouTube with these? They sell some of these things. Like I see this one that changes the color of the candles, right? Buy on blue, sell on red. Have you ever seen that one? Have you ever seen that one? Buy on blue, sell on red. And when you look at the chart, it's like if you actually do that, there's a couple of instances on that chart where you would really get hammered if you actually look at that chart. And by the way, that script, which is like a tool set, so it's like a couple of scripts, he wants $1,200 for that. One-time payment, no free trial. It's a money-back guarantee, which means you pay first. Interesting, right? The guy's anonymous. There's no trace of who he is, what his name is, where he's located. I researched that guy. In case you know who I'm talking about. But it's nonsense, is what I'm talking about. Okay, so a tool like that implies that the script is actually doing some type of forecasting for you, and that's not possible, especially when you're dealing with TradingView scripts. It's not possible. So you still have to have some input. I guess no one knows the video I'm talking about. I guess they only play that video on my YouTube account. They only play that to me when I'm watching. All right, so look, we touched the blue line, we rejected it. All right, I think I'll be aggressive here. This is not the best price though. I should have done it. Well, we're at the green candle close. Let's see if we can get another strong close. Again, strong close. I'm working with 30 seconds here. Do we get like a strong, like an aggressive pop? If we do, I'll add. Because we touched the entry price and we bounced off of it. So again, imagine this happening on a 15-minute time frame. Each candle is 15 minutes. Imagine that. Or each candle is 5 minutes. You have plenty of time. The other thing is, you don't have to sit in front of your chart like I am to do all this. You can set notifications from TradingView. Right? You simply go here, right-click, right? And there's a thing you can add right here. And you can tell TradingView basically to let you know when an event pops up, whether it's a signal, whether it's a heads up, or your stop is reached, it'll tell you. You can get an email. That all comes from TradingView. And the timing of it is usually pretty good. Like it's pretty fast, except if you live in a country with delayed internet, then you'll have a problem. There are some people that live in these countries where the internet has like a 20-minute delay or something like that. So by the time you get the information, it's kind of useless. But if you live in a country that does not have such a delay, usually you get the confirmation, or you get that notification from TradingView, usually in a timely manner. Okay, I'm going to give this a try. So I put on a third contract, which is risky on a $1,000 account. All right, but I'm doing that because we're trying to hold here, possible high or low. Again, I'm just making some judgments. My trailing stop has reduced my risk almost in half here. Let's see if we can get a little pop. I'm hoping we get one of these. I don't know if we will. So it's like, anyone watching? Am I talking to myself here? I think I'm talking to myself. Had some people earlier. I know I talk for a while and people fall asleep. I understand. Plus, this isn't the best time to stream for people like in Europe. I know it's like 10 o'clock at night or whatever. I think the best time to stream would be like 8 a.m., but I have a hard time. I'm busy at that time. So, but maybe one of these days I'll stream at 8 a.m. Eastern time. I'll probably get a lot more people because that's when a lot of people are streaming pre-market. So this market's quiet now. As you can see, we're not really doing anything. So maybe we'll get the pop, maybe not. I'm just waiting. So I'm looking for this. I'll leave that there. Let's see if the market follows it. So any questions about anything? Any questions, comments? Anything? Hello? I love talking to myself. Hey, Grego. Okay, no problem. Thanks for chiming in. I like to know at least I'm not talking to myself. I was watching a stream yesterday of someone who focuses on swing trades, and I don't know. It's very questionable, but this person had over 1,000 people on the stream. Like, man, but this was at night. But this person's big. This person's not a small, this person is a pretty sizable following to begin with. And she happens to be a girl. So cute girls are going to do way better than me as far as getting viewership. That's for sure. Because I'm not a cute girl. Although I could use AI and I could make myself a cute girl. Right? I could do one of those fake whatever, and I could change the voice. And then instead of me, you'll see a cute girl doing this. I would probably do better on the views, even though she'd be fake. Yeah, that AI stuff is nuts, what you can do with it. Like the video stuff and it's nuts. It's nuts. You can't trust anything you see. You missed your window for identifying as a woman. You're right. Maybe. Hopefully not, UTXO, but yeah. I can still do the AI thing. No one will know. I can't use my voice. I have to change my voice. But you could do an AI voice. You could do everything. The stuff you could do today is unbelievable. What you can fake. It's unbelievable. I guess if you're like 20-something or if you're like a teenager, it's second nature to you because you just, it's like you grew up around that. So it's like, oh, what's the big deal? But when you're older and you remember how things used to be and you see this stuff now, it's like, how do you trust anything? So anyway, all right, while I'm talking, you see the market likes my talk here. All right, great. So almost at the profit objective. That's nice. But, since I put on that third lot, oh, there we go. Goodbye. Sold one. I still have two. I got one on my profit objective. I think I'm going to sell the second one. Yeah, I sold two. Why not? Now I'll hold the third one. That's why I had three. Now, that's the great thing that's why I like doing this as a live stream. Because this is not a cherry-picked example here. This is the market. You can all follow this on your charts at home. I can't fake this. I can't even use AI to fake this on a live stream. Or maybe I can. I don't know. But I'm not that sophisticated. Okay? Just so you know. I'm just learning about this AI stuff. So, and that's the thing. So my hope is that you see these examples. You see how I'm making the initial judgments. You see how I'm taking the trade. And then you see how I'm letting the trade play out. I think a common mistake that people make with this is they're just jumping in at every single trade that pops up, maybe because of impatience, maybe because whatever, and you can't do that. You have to pick a side, work on that side until the side proves otherwise, right? I'm still working on the long side. It's a good thing I haven't switched to short yet, because this would be a problem right now. But why would I switch to short? Let's take a look at the bigger picture. Look, here's our bigger picture that we made the judgment on initially. You see, we rejected the resistance, right? You see that, but this is not a collapse. So this area can give me opportunities. So maybe I can look for very small time frame shorts. Maybe I could switch to short up here. Good thing I got out of 2 contracts there, because this resistance so far is being respected. But this is where you would do such a thing. This is like where you would potentially use counter trend, as opposed to, going short here or whatever. You have the levels give you your reference point. So another example is when this candle was like fooling around here, for example, before we had the shift, before we had the thrust up to here, like in this little area right here, that would not be a good place for counter trend. Like, I know this in advance. I could have known that in advance. There's no major resistance. There's no notable resistance there. You can argue, you can say, well, you have some of this action back here, right? Some of this could have been, but this is minor, right? Like we talked about before. This price action in this area right here, this is meaningless. Like, it doesn't really mean anything. The movements are so small, relatively speaking. I don't see a 5,000 point move occurring right there from low to high or whatever. So it doesn't really mean anything. It's noise. So I can overlook it. That's why I wouldn't draw a line over here. I wouldn't draw a line here and be like, okay, that's resistance. I would not do that. And I know this in advance. So if I would not do that, that means that an area like this is not an area for counter trend. This little area right here, which some people may start shorting too early, as opposed to up here, which is an area where counter trend has delivered a couple of green trades on the short side. So if I'm going to do it, that's where I should do it. And even then, look what's happening. Look what's happening. We're not rejecting that resistance that hard yet. In fact, we're going back to test it. Look, the blue line on my chart. I'm trying to give it a chance. Look at my trailing stop as I've been talking about this. This trade is now break even. It's a risk-free trade. We're now up at this resistance up here. We're way through my profit objective. So I blew out of 2, took that profit, and now I'm in this third one, and I'm just letting it ride. Can we break the resistance? I'm going to give it a chance, because we have such strong momentum proven from earlier. I don't know if we'll break it, but maybe we will. I'm going to give it a chance. It's trying. Nice job. Let's see. Okay. So in a situation like this, I have a couple of choices. I can get out now and be like, wow, that's a nice profit. I can do that. I could wait for something like this to happen where it starts to reject. I can do that. And since this is a resistance, I may just do that. Or I can just let it ride and let the trailing stop get touched. In fact, you know what? I'm going to let you guys decide. What should I do? Should I exit on the trailing stop? Should I exit now? Or should I exit on like the first sign of selling, like real selling? Get out now, Nug says. All right. Anyone else? I want to see if I get some kind of consensus here. Anyone else? Thanks, Nugs, for your thought. Anyone else? Should I get out now? Let it ride, Hussein says. Oh, we got a gambler here. All right. Can I get some consensus? So I got one on get out now. I'm for the trailing stop. Okay, so I got 2 on the trailing stop. All right, Hussein, I'm going to say you're a trailing stop guy. Okay, because you're saying let it ride. All right, so we'll give it the trailing stop then. That's the consensus of the channel here. All right, so it's out of my hands. Let's see how you guys do. I mean, my input would be let it. I mean, for this example, let it ride. I just or trailing stop. That would be my input, because why not? I locked in profit on 2 of them, so it's not like I have my whole thing at stake here. This is all just extra, you know. And it is a good idea to try to let winners ride. It's not easy to do, and sometimes it doesn't work out very well, and you give back a lot. That happens. So it is definitely a gamble, but I'm gambling with profit here. So it's okay. So you guys said trailing stop. That's what it's going to be. Let's see what happens. So it was nice that we attempted the resistance here. This is like the resistance of the whole thing. Let's go back to that hourly. All right, that's the hourly resistance right there that we're testing. Look, it's like right there. See that? That's the hourly high. So if we clear that would certainly be a bullish sign, and a sign that this momentum wants to continue. The next resistance, by the way, is at 104. I don't expect that to run that now, but if you were really willing to give it a chance, I mean, that would be a potential area to measure your profit objective from. So I'm following what you guys told me to do. I'm letting it ride. Okay, look, my trailing stop is now at the profit objective. So if this thing stops me out right now, I'm getting stopped out at my profit objective. Not bad. So I'm not losing anything. This is no longer, I'm just giving back some profit. That's all I'm doing. All right, so what's the big deal? I'm willing to give back some profit, or you guys are willing to give back some profit to try to capture more profit. Nothing wrong with that. That's called letting your winner run. That's a valid market concept. But I have some tools here that can help me with these decisions in case things turn the wrong way fast. I have my point of reference, and that is exit at the trailing stop, which is what I'm going to do. So imagine before a tool like this, right, I may see like this red stuff over here and be like, all right, I'm getting out. Or pin bar, I'm getting out. I mean, it's a 30-second pin bar. It doesn't really mean much. But I may get out much sooner because I'm reacting to something I see, as opposed to just letting this play out, and I'm making a lot less. I'm doing a lot less decision making. All right. So we'll see how this thing goes. I should be getting tapped out soon, but nice trade though. I mean, this coin alone, this lot alone is up $600 and something or whatever. Again, it's on paper, but still, like that's it just kind of gives you an idea. If you were able to trade 3 Bitcoin, in reality, this would be like 1/16 of Bitcoin or something like that, because that's what I would trade on a $1,000 account. I think it will be a long ride. All right. Well, I mean, seems bullish to you. It also seems bullish to everyone on this chart over here. The momentum is bullish, and we've determined that at the beginning of the stream when we were doing our analysis. This is clearly bullish. It may turn around, it may stop me out, whatever, but that's okay. Look, I'm beyond the profit objective. My profit objective is here. My trailing stop is here. I'm beyond it. So I'm still making out. I'm giving back some money. All right. But I'm willing to give back to try to make more. Now, Hussein, understand, I'm trying not to have an opinion here, right? Like I worked with, we determined what side to work on, and now it's up to the market. It's not up to me anymore. I gave you guys a choice to tell me how I should manage this, and the trailing stop is going to determine my exit. So I'm not even thinking. It doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter how I feel. It doesn't matter what my opinion is. I'm completely not connected to that. It's up to the script. It's up to these lines on the chart to tell me what to do. And I think there's a benefit to that, because you're not reacting to things you see. You're not being emotional. You're just following the plan. And this is a visual plan. That's a great thing about the Trade Scanner Pro. And I demonstrate this every week. You can go back on my YouTube channel. I have streams on there for weeks doing the same thing. Sometimes I get hammered a bit, right? But a lot of the trades are good trades if you go back and watch the streams. They're not all winners. But I like streaming in real time. As opposed, I'm going to get tapped over here, but it's okay. I like streaming in real time because I can't fool anyone. I can't fool you with this. You're seeing real time action. So you can't come back to me and say, well, you're just cherry picking. I'm not cherry picking. Clearly, you guys can see. That's why I like doing it like this. As for me and for what I'm doing, this is actually not the most beneficial situation for me. I'm actually probably better off making like a record, doing like a video and then upload after the fact. That's actually probably more beneficial for me. And it also fools a lot more people. I'm not looking to fool people because I would try to do it honestly. But the thing is, you can say I'm cherry picking. You can say that because there's no way to know that I'm not if I upload, right? And I see a lot of examples of that. I took this trade. Let's review my trades for the whole week. And meanwhile, they were never called anywhere. They were never whatever. And, it's easy to say after the fact. So my point is, that's why I like to do it like this. So you see in real time. Now, again, like I said before, I don't want you to misunderstand. Don't try to do this on these micro time frames. Like it looks great. It looks like, oh, it's not so hard. It is hard because this can change very quickly. And if you get caught in a bad situation, like a bad environment, you can really run into problems. And that's a lot less likely on larger time frames. Things don't change as much. Trends stay more intact. And all that. It takes longer for something to change. So that's very helpful for a beginner. And I think that's the best place to start using a tool like this. So that means 15-minute chart as your action chart, 30-minute chart. Use your 4-hour or use your daily to determine the momentum, like I have used my 1 hour here. That's how you would do something like that. And you would use the TradingView notification feature to get notifications so that you do your homework, you do your analysis, you know what you're waiting for, and then you walk away and you go do something else. You don't sit in front of your computer screen because this is ridiculous, by the way. Sitting in front of a computer screen reacting to trades, like it's kind of ridiculous. Okay, in the way things are today. All right, hey, so far you guys are right. So far, I haven't been tapped out yet. And it's trying to work its way back. We're back into the resistance. Let's see if we can break it. I'm looking at the chat here. All right. So anything you guys want to add? Any questions? This is cool, right? To see this stuff play out in real time, and you can follow along. Because even if you don't use the tool, you still have an idea of how your thought process should unfold and how you should not react to what you see. So there's a learning lesson in every single one of these streams that I do. We can't see what's happening inside these candles. And trust me, I've tried. But it would be even better if you, from a rented Ferrari. Yes. UTXO, I was thinking about that conversation. The rented Ferrari, getting a rented girl. But I'm so old school. Like I'm so stuck in the 90s that I said, we'll put a laptop in her lap and she could trade from there. It really should be more of an iPad, right? We'll put an iPad in her lap. That's more like today. I'm so like 90s that I'm thinking still in laptops. Who brings a laptop in a Ferrari? it would be an iPad most likely, right? Cool. I appreciate that. And UTXO, I think I could make that happen using AI. I can have the fake car made up. I can have the model in the car, all AI, and it'll look real. And I can make sure she has an iPad. And then I could be like, okay, we're going to place a trade from the Trade Scanner Pro as I'm driving. I don't even have to rent a car. Imagine that. But it'd be more fun to rent the car and the girl. It'd be way more fun to do that, I think. Because, I mean, come on, who doesn't like a pretty girl with an iPad? Placing trades. I may have to do Forex, though, because everyone seems to think Forex is... I think Forex is the reason why people pay attention to it is because of all the prop firms, because they're all Forex prop firms. And that's why even people talk about futures. At one time, no one talked about futures. Like futures was like, who the hell trades futures? But because all these prop firms focus on that, people talk about futures. Or I'd have to have her trade meme coins or something. Something more exciting. Maybe like Melania coin or something. I think that video would generate a lot of sales. So anyway, we'll have to figure that out. I'll have to look at the exotic car rental companies around here. All right. So we're just waiting for this thing to do something. All right, we're watching this long play out. This is a, you're watching price action here in real time. My trailing stop. Notice the trailing stop hasn't really advanced much, right? Because it's waiting for the price to advance. It'll sit there. If price doesn't advance, the trailing stop will just sit there and it won't really move. So price needs to advance further and close higher. And then the trailing stop will start moving based on those closing prices. That's how it moves. But either way, I'm okay with this trailing stop. Let's just measure real quick what kind of reward risk I took. My initial risk was, we'll round that to 200 points. That was my risk in the trade. My profit objective was 287 points, roughly 1.5 to 1. I locked in two lots there. I sold 2 coins there, right? Now I'm in my third coin. My third coin has been as high as 822 points from my entry. That's 4 to 1, is it not? So at the peak of this movement, I was looking at 4. So I'm basically fooling around 3.5 to 4 to 1 reward risk right now. That's 3.5 times my risk. Not bad. It's kind of hard to lose money when you're capturing 3.5 times what you lose. My trailing stop, though, if I tap out at the trailing stop, that's 384 points. So that's, what is that? Almost 400 points. So that's a little less than 2 to 1. So we'll say like 1 3/4 to 1, almost 2 to 1. All right. Not bad. 4 to 1 is nicer, but hey, you don't want to let greed enter the picture. It's like, so that's why it's let the market do its thing. By letting the market do its thing, I'm not letting greed enter the picture here. We're just giving it a chance. I'm okay with this outcome, touching this trailing stop. I'm okay if we break out. It doesn't matter. So that's the thing. We're not attached to the outcome. And it'd be nice if you could manage your trades like this naturally. The problem is this is not a natural process. It's counterintuitive. We typically want to get out of our winners quickly because we want to take the money, especially if you've been in a losing phase for a while, which is very common, especially for beginners. You're so happy to just make something. You want to take it before you give it back, right? And we hold on to our losing trades because we hope that they come back so we don't have to lose. That's natural. And part of the reason why no one makes money in this game. But that's not the only problem. There's a lot of other problems, but that's what we're naturally fighting against. There's a lot of other problems that are engineered for us to lose, right? That's another, I'm not even going to get into that. But the natural process is counterintuitive. So that's why having a tool like this can help you work more in line with the market's nature rather than your own, because our own human nature works against us. All right, how are we doing here with this trailing stop? We made a higher high in the price. All right. My trailing stop, it'd be nice if this thing could pick it up a bit here. And I could change the speed of the trailing stop if I want to. I'm not going to, but there is a setting on here that Stian put in. Where is it? Trailing stop mode. See that? It says regular. You have a couple of choices there. You could make it more sensitive so that it'll be really up against the price, or you could make it less sensitive so that it'll kind of move away from the price and give you more breathing room. If you want to be more hands-on, you could mess with that. I'm not messing with that. You don't need to. Maybe forget the Ferrari. Just hire 3 people to hold the iPad, masseuse, and waitress. Oh, that's interesting. Hire 3 people, an assistant to hold the iPad, a masseuse, and a waitress? What would we do with the waitress? I don't understand where the waitress fits. I mean, I could come up with ideas, but yeah, all right, a waitress. They'd all have to be like models, though. Like they'd all have to be, yeah, something. All right, we'll have to work on that one. We'll have to collaborate on that one. All right. Yeah, the iPad, a masseuse, hopefully a female masseuse, and a waitress. I like it. I like where that can go. All right. But come on, man. How could you not have like a Ferrari? Girls and cars, I mean, they just go naturally together. All right. We're at this high. We're just messing around. Let's check my reward risk at this point. I mean, I'm streaming here like forever, but the market wants to keep me in. What is my reward? We're at 5. If I get tapped out right now, we're looking at 579, right? That's almost 600 points. So that's her. So here, basically, let's see where we are now. I think I'm basically at 4-1 at this point for my entry. Let's see. Yeah, 600 points. If I get tapped out right now, 600 points. That's 3-1. I'm sorry, 3-1. Because my risk was 200, right? So 246, that's 3-1 if I get tapped out here. 3-1, and the trade is still running. Nice. No decisions to make. Just letting the market naturally do its random thing. And I'm just sitting here waiting to press a button. So I am no longer connected to this. My work was in the beginning, determining what side to work on. So you saw there was some work involved. But let me ask you guys, do you think that's hard work? Like, was that hard? Figuring out what side to work on and then waiting for signals? You tell me. Was that hard? I mean, maybe it's just me that I think it's hard. I don't know. Was it hard? Do you think that's something that you could learn? I mean, that's, all right, maybe get some action here. Maybe I get tapped out. This may be the tap out. That was a quick move. Now, a situation like this may tap me out and reverse back up, but that's okay if it taps me out. I'm willing to take 3-1. I don't mind taking a profit at 3-1. You've been doing it for years. It seems easy, but a beginner has no idea how to assess the situation. Well, it can. So, okay, good points. Slow days, a slow day, nothing may come about. And if you can determine that the day is slow, you should probably walk away to begin with. But also, we're talking micro time frames here. So as far as slow days go, if you're dealing with a 15-minute or 30-minute or hourly time frame or something like that, a slow day really shouldn't be dealing with that much, because everything is slow to begin with, much slower. So you won't really have much of a problem there. But on micro time frames, yes, you will. And you if you can detect that the day is slow, you should walk away. You shouldn't trade. Or if you have a couple of bad trades, you just walk away. Slow days are the worst, right? UTXO says, I've been doing it for a long time, so it may seem easy. Okay. So you guys believe that the stuff, when we went over that hourly chart, you guys don't think you could have determined that this was bullish? I mean, it's like, and the same thing at this time, before this bullish move, we could have determined that this was bearish at the time. There were plenty of lower highs and lower lows at the time. So we could have looked for bearish confirmations in there somewhere, right? And perhaps taken some small bites out of that, not knowing that it's going to go to 90K or whatever. But then it changed. And now we're just working with the side of the momentum that the market says. Momentum's bullish, and that's the side we're trying to work with here. So far, that seems to be the right side. So is it that hard? We're just looking at the larger time frame. We're getting a sense of momentum, and then we're looking for confirmations on that side. But we do need to know what type of trader we want to be. The trend isn't even the hard part. It's the levels that are not obvious when you have no experience. Okay, good point. The levels. Okay. So, and again, I can understand that, because you may not know the point of reference, where to draw these levels from. And it can be very subjective. So that's, yeah, experience helps in that area. Like, I know to draw these lines where I draw these lines. And look, I'm not always correct. I can be wrong. But it's just when you see a bunch of touches, right, off of reactive areas, when you see a bunch of things like this, over time, you start to recognize that those levels are meaningful in the future. That's it. And then again, there's no guarantee that those levels are going to hold or react, but there's a greater probability that they will. Now, I mean, look, this is a resistance, right? Shouldn't we be selling off hard? We would think we'd sell off hard at a resistance, but we're not, because the momentum is still bullish. And as I said before, when momentum is a certain way, in this case bullish, it's reasonable to expect support levels to hold. Where was I buying this thing? At that support level. And I'm trying to give it a chance to break this resistance. It's doing a pretty good job trying to break it, right? So it's all about, so yeah, forming reasonable expectations does require some experience, but you don't have to have a decade of experience. You don't have to have 2 decades of experience. You can get that kind of stuff after some practice, I think. Like, it doesn't take that long. If someone's telling you this is what works and you just focus on that, I think you could learn that faster, compared to if you're not sure what works and you have to try anything, you're not sure what to focus on. So, 1 minute you may be like, oh yeah, support and resistance. And then you get stopped out a few times and you're like, okay, this doesn't work. And then you go, I'm going to use, wave counts, or I'm going to use RSI. I'm going to use, so you start jumping around. All right, just got tapped out. Okay. Not bad. All right. So that trade, if we take a quick look here at the account history, that was $608 on that contract, right? So that was 600 points on that, just on that one. And look, I told you they're probably going to tap me out in reverse. All right, whatever. I don't want to be streaming for hours here anyway. But you saw that trade was 3-1. The other 2 contracts I took off were 1.5-1. And the money that I got stopped out a couple of times earlier, I made that back, clearly. I mean, let's take a look. I mean, I could sit here and talk about it. Again, it's on paper, but still, at least we could see some kind of numbers here, right? So let's look back here a bit. I mean, those multiple red numbers, these are commissions, by the way. I have commissions calculated on here. So $400 was when I got stopped out before. 400. All right, that sucks. 400, 183. Is that from today? No, that's not from today, is it? Yeah, it is today. Okay, so I made 200 gave back 183. I'm not going to count the commissions. Then 398. So I was in the red there a bit, right? And then I made back 283, 281, and then 600. And let's just minus $200 on the commissions, or maybe less than that, because each commission was about $10 to $20. I don't have 10 trades, so let's say $100 in commissions, or 150. So I'm still ahead, right? I mean, my P&L on this account, I'm up. What is this? Realized 1170. This actually was higher. I took some experimental trades that I lost money on, so I gave back some of that. But this was originally $1,000, right? And I think when I started out today, I was at like $1,600 or something like that, or $1,500. I forget the amount, or something. No, less than that. What is that here? Well, the equity is 2,100. Yeah, so I was I was something like that. So this is definitely net green, right? So you see how that works. Again, the numbers are bigger because I'm fooling around with one coin at a time or multiple Bitcoins. In reality, this would be a lot smaller. We're probably looking, instead of a $600 move like that, we'd probably be looking at I don't know, not even 60, to maybe like a $30 move would be like a max move on something like that. Because again, it'd be a fraction of a Bitcoin. It wouldn't be a full Bitcoin. All right, so some great examples today. Do I have any questions? Because again, the whole point of these streams is to show you the TradeScanner Pro in action, show you how it works and how it simplifies the decision-making process, even though I'm telling you not to use this time frame, because this is a very hard time frame, and I'm messing around after hours, which is usually a bad time to be involved in this to begin with. I want you to understand some concepts and some ideas of putting the trade idea together and then using the TradeScanner Pro to confirm the idea and then manage the trade. You don't have to use the components that I'm using. I mean, I'm using very simple components, momentum and levels. That's all I'm looking at. Maybe you have some other kind of system to identify a trade idea, and then you could use the TradeScanner Pro to confirm that as well. I'm just showing you a simple way to arrive at an idea, and then it's up to the TradeScanner Pro to help you manage the trade. All right. So cool. I mean, I think it was a pretty decent day. If you want to see plenty of other examples, just go back on my YouTube channel every Monday. I got plenty of examples just like this, right? Market situations are unique and they're streamed and everyone can see this in real time. All right. So I don't see any other questions. You guys know where to find me. All right. You can send me an email at markpmarkets.com. Here, I'll put my website back up. You can go to the TradeScanner Pro website. The link is in the description. It'll take you to the sign up page. You can do 14 days free. Make sure you cancel if you don't want it. Don't wait till day 15 and then send me an email saying, I had no idea I was going to get charged. People actually send me emails like that. I'm not going to refund. So you have 14 days. It's fair. You can cancel anytime. It's very easy to cancel. And that's that. So give it a try. Make sure you put your TradingView username in the field correctly so that you get your automated invite. All right. Again, you can find me if you have any questions. You can email me, mark@markpremarkets.com. You can send me a message on TradingView. Those are the best places to send me messages if you have questions about that. Otherwise, if you get any unsolicited messages from me or Alex or Stian or someone that claims to be involved, blah, 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 we don't send out unsolicited messages. Usually they ask for money and stuff like that. Block the person, report the person. Please don't get scammed because, that's not cool. So just be careful and protect yourself. Otherwise, hey, everyone, really thank you for watching the stream. I hope you got something out of it. And I hope, again, you can appreciate what I showed you here. Make sure you press the like button. Press the subscribe button if you like the content, and hopefully soon I get some more stuff on here. All right, so enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your evening, wherever you are in the world, and thank you again very much for watching.